on the offensive side of things, we love to talk about the flashy names: Brock Purdy, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, an unbelievable play again. And not to take anything away from those guys, but what is being done up front with the 49ers has been impressive for the last couple of years. This year is no different, specifically with a rookie who is stepping into that right guard spot in Dominick Puni. Him and Trent Williams looked like the Bash Brothers. I mean, they looked like long lost, older brother, younger brother. They were playing really, really well. Puni in this game, 85.8 overall PFF grade. Trent Williams an 84.0. When you were looking at this, these are two guys that you specifically, when I asked you, hey, what do you want to talk about this week? You were like, hey, we got to talk about something where we're giving praise to these guys. And you brought up Trent Williams and that relationship with Dominick Puni. But these guys, it's not as easy to say, oh, they're just kicking ass on one side of the line because, Puni's not playing that left guard spot next to Trent Williams' left tackle spot. But they are really setting the tone on their sides of the offensive line. So when you watch this 49ers offensive line, those guys specifically, what do you want to highlight from their good performances this week?
Yeah. Trent in particular, I just run out of things to say about Trent Williams. He's just the best all-around player in football. There's no way around it. You got Mahomes, you got Josh Allen. No one does their job or craft as well as this guy, other than maybe Fred Warner, who happens to be his teammate playing on the other side of the ball. And I remember when I first started scouting, I worked for Ted Sundquist, who was the former Broncos GM, and he always used to tell me, before you go through the college tape, and you would throw me the college tape, be so excited, wow, you can get all 22 college tape, Mike Leach, air raid offense, amazing. He would say, go through 3 players in the pros, take a great player, take a Pro Bowler, take a league average player, go and watch what the talent, technique, effort, requirement, the demands of the pro level are. So when you go to the college game, you can start seeing similar things and similar crossovers going through. And I would always use Trent Williams. And then 3 years ago, I was like, stuff that. Why am I trying to watch this guy and then watch anyone else? It's unfair to everyone else in the sport. He is the most one-of-one player that we have doing what he does at that kind of elite level. The thing I will never get over with him, we could go on for hours and hours and days about what makes him so special. But what I think some people who maybe aren't watching and breaking down the game don't quite understand with him is the unusual way he wins reps. It's not just that he is a man mountain, which he is, not just that he might be the strongest dude in the league, which maybe he is, not that he's just the most explosive, quickest guy out of his stance to the second level, all that good stuff. He does such unusual things with his hands where he is using moves that would look like how you would as a pass rusher try and beat a blocker to win, to bury dudes, both in pass pro and in the run game. He is using these clubs and these rips and these things that look like how a pass rusher attacks a quarterback to knock down defenders who are just stunned and dazed that it's ever happened to them before. Then I watch on the right side of the line against the Patriots and I see this guy Puni, and I see him do the exact same move where one of Trent Williams' favorite stun moves is to grab the inside hand with one hand, unbelievable skill this, and to just basically bury in the gut the pass rusher, who then just stops on contact being like, what did this giant just do to me? I can't believe he just hit me like that. It is a stone cold killer that he does. I watched Puni for 2 reps hit an interior guy with the exact same move. And I don't even know how this happened. I was talking to this with you before the show. Trent Williams wasn't in camp.
Right.
He's not beat.
Right.
He rolled in off the street. I was like, yeah, I'm still the best player in the league. Don't worry about it. Was dominant in week 1, has been dominant since. Puni's playing on the other side in a new position. He played all over the line of scrimmage, right? During college, played guard, tackle, right tackle. Now they're saying go play right guard. I don't think he played a snap of that in college.
I don't think so either.
So these aren't even the same, you would study it in college to learn some moves as a left tackle, Trent Williams things, which I'm sure he probably did. He's the best in the sport. So he's still using a different hand and foot movement to try and perfect these things in the NFL in the 4th week of his career. And the thing with Puni, I don't know if you felt the same thing, he is just so smooth and almost casual with everything he does. He can drive people off the ball really well. Him and McVitz working together as a combo is beautiful. He's a really good puller across the formation, but there is just a calmness and a stillness to how he goes about his work as if he has been around for a long, long time. And I know people say the Niners have cycled through guards and they can just find these guys, and maybe there's some element of truth to that because of the style of scheme they run, the pieces they have. He really does have this kind of it when you see it, feel to the game, the stunts, the twist, all that pickup stuff, knowing how to beat different guys, how to set up versus a power guy versus a speed guy. that is just in there somehow, and I think they've just hit on a gem there.
I, at the beginning of what you said, it made me smile because I think about going back to every scouting report you wrote for offensive tackles. They all probably started this. If you watch Trent Williams is like the bar, like, oh, okay, let me watch Trent Williams, and then I'll go to this guy's college tape. Every single scouting report probably started with, he's not Trent Williams, but, and then it was just like every single offensive tackle scouting report probably started out like that. No, I think that it's a great point. Trent, to be as good as he is, it's not just about like playing offensive line play like textbook. Like, you have to do things beyond the textbook when you are as good as he is. You have to make that position your own, if you will, like some of the best in the game who have played the position have. And I think the hand usage, I love the fact that you said, like, man, he attacks defensive linemen, and they're not used to that, right? They're often the ones where, okay, it's my job to attack, and then all of a sudden you got an offensive tackle who's attacking you. It's one of those reasons why I like Darnell Wright a lot coming out of Tennessee. It's because of that style. And there's some things that Darnell Wright obviously had to clean up when he was coming out of Tennessee, things that he still needs to clean up here in the NFL because he hasn't quite arrived to hit his consistency ceiling, I would say that. But what I loved about Wright was he'd take the fight to you. You know, these pass rushers, they'd get off the ball and they go, okay, on this rep, you know, I'm gonna give myself a little bit more space. I'm gonna give myself at least 3 to 4 steps before I start to bend, and I'm gonna attack the outside shoulder. They'd get 2 steps into it, and Darnell Wright would like short set it, and he'd be like, nope, and all of a sudden he'd put his arm into their chest first, and you could tell there were plenty of reps, I think, throughout that last season of him being at Tennessee, where edge rushers went, wait a second, you're allowed to do this? Like, what's going on here? I didn't think this is not how this usually goes. And so Trent Williams, he's just the best at it now with timing and patience and technique, hand precision. Dominick Puni, something that I noticed specifically, you talk about the smoothness that he plays with, the confidence in which this guy comes off the ball is also really, really impactful. And a little bit of the inverse of what we were just talking about with the Packers, and even a little bit of sort of like what we talked about with Mozzie Smith last week. Any sort of hesitancy at the NFL level in the trenches, you're not going to win the rep. You're just not going to win the rep. In order to win against NFL pros on either side of the line of scrimmage, you have to be giving it all you've got. And even then, it takes you being some of the best to really succeed at your job consistently. And when I watch Puni, especially this past week against New England, his get off, that first step is so confident. And I went back and I looked at it because I was like, I'm pretty sure he tested out pretty well as an athlete. And he did. Not only was he 84th percentile in height and 51st percentile in weight for an offensive guard, obviously it would have been bigger for offensive tackle. He was 76th percentile in vertical jump, 78th percentile in broad jump. So an above 75th percentile athlete at the position in how he is able to explode. Because when we talk about some of these combine drills, yeah, okay, some of them are more useful than others, but vertical jump, broad jump give you a pretty good idea of explosiveness, right? You are, think about it just like the practicality of jumping. You are loading up on your quads and you are just exploding up in the air for a vertical jump, or you are exploding in one direction for a broad jump. That sort of helps you understand what kind of explosiveness this player has when he's getting out of his stance, when he is starting at zero. And Puni testing out well, really, in that aspect, shows up on his tape for how well, especially when they ask him to climb to the second level, which I saw him do multiple times against the New England Patriots. You obviously have zone concepts as well, specifically outside zone, where if you're in your stance and you got to fire out one direction to really beat the defender to a landmark to be able to wall them off and create a rushing lane, that's needed. I saw that from Dominick Puni. And you mentioned, too, just like the hands. He's getting more consistent with the hand usage. So this little tag team here, man, I know it's not as easy with the narrative, because if you would have played left guard, it'd be like, oh, left side of the offensive line. It's the Bash brothers over there. But it is still worth appreciating nonetheless.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's probably fun for a coaching staff to have it that way, because the only kind of demerit along the offensive line for the Niners right now is the left guard is Banks. And so at least you have the best player in the sport helping out the guy who's maybe the difficult one. It's nice to have another young guy come along. Really, how about the other side? And the thing with Puni is they're not giving him like easy assignments. He gets really tough looks. They don't flip the play very much in San Francisco. based on what the defensive front looks like. Some teams who like base out of a stretch, wide zone type system will shift the play, based on how the front comes out. The Niners aren't about that life, partly because they got Trent Williams. So the backside cutoff is not difficult for them as it is for certain looks against other people. So he gets himself into tough looks, non-premium looks, because they just don't want to do that as a staff. And he's just, when I watched him, it was like there was like a cruise control feel to him where it's like, this is not happening fast for him. This is like it's normal for him. You mentioned climbing to the second level, just a breeze. He's so quick out of his stance, the speed with his hips and how he snaps to the second level is like really, really high level type stuff. So it was just like a very, very impressive performance. He handed it to Akule a couple of times inside. Just not a fun day for that guy to be at the office. Just getting drilled off the ball, not able to do much in the passing game either. And the thing that was also funny is I mentioned this kind of cruise control thing. There's a great rep that he has where Purdy rips a fastball. I think it's to Juwan Jennings. It's like third and something. They're basically backed up in their own half in the third quarter. The Pats drop 8. And so Puni's there at right guard. There's a head up nose who attacks Brendel inside. Puni helps Brendel out, being like, I'll help you seal this, no problem. Then he looks around to see if there's any other good play from a young player. And he's looking around. He just stands up and stops. He's basically like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing right now. There's not really a lot going on. This sport's pretty easy at this level. I thought it was supposed to be really hard. But then out of nowhere, he just like explodes for no reason. The ball's gone to try and clean out someone who's, engaging with the right tackle. He just wants to hit people. But so he's got this like the edge you just love to see in a guy, right? Who really is up for the fight, perfect for them with their run game and how they want to get after things. But then he's just really in control and smooth with everything he does. So it is a really ideal blend you'd be looking for in the style they want to run as a guard. It looks so far, and it's only 4 weeks, but it's been a really impressive 4 weeks. Like they've really found something there.
Well, that's a hat tip to their scouting staff, right? Because not only that mentality, but also like finding those players that are have the right mental makeup, the right physical makeup, and then also fit your system. That's when you see guys be able to stand out really early, especially in a spot as tough as it is to do that as the trenches at the NFL level. There we go. Go ahead.
Just don't see many guys in the NFL, Quentin Nelson aside, who are like disappointed not to have hit someone on a rep, who are like hanging their head like, oh man. So they're kind of like, oh, I got one rep off. I played, 10 years in the league. It's really painful. It's nice to get a rep off. This guy is looking around being like, I am so annoyed that no one rushed me on that one. It's for a rookie, it's really, really cool stuff.
It's the part of scouting that those little nuggets of like understanding how a guy is mentally, how they mentally approach something like that. I wish I knew that for every single player. It's a disadvantage that we have doing scouting sort of on this side of things, if you will, more the media side. But that's also when we point these things out in tape, when we go like, okay, you see the mentality, this dude loves to hit, this is just what he loves to do, that will mean a lot, again, especially when you are playing in the trenches.